Welcome to the Spunky Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, Psychic Medium Carrie Muggs. This is where we learn all things spirit, everything from spiritual gifts, awakenings, ghosts, aliens, and starseeds. Nothing is untouchable, but always fun and spunky. I am honored to be on this spiritual journey with you, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode, Spunky Spirit episode of modalities. This week we're going to talk about the different modalities, and I'm not just going to talk about spiritual modalities, I'm going to talk about healing modalities too, but I am going to touch on the healing modalities. I'm not going to get as much into. There's a ton out there and they're all awesome, but I couldn't do them justice, and I don't know enough about them, so I'm just going to kind of tell you some of them that are available. But mostly, we're going to talk about the different modalities. And what are spiritual modalities? So modalities are different ways that you can connect to spirit. And I feel like I've talked about this before, but I noticed that I didn't have a podcast on it. So I'm going to devote a full podcast on it. But I know that I've probably touched on some of it in other episodes when we're talking about different things. So modalities, they're different ways that you can use to connect to spirit, and everybody has one that they, just like the clairs, like we all have different clairs, we all connect to spirit, and we communicate with spirit with our clairs, and everybody has a more dominant clair than the other. Same with modalities. The modalities, some people are pulled to different modalities than others, and we use these modalities to help us, kind of like a crutch, not a bad crutch, to connect to spirit and feel spirit. And so I just kind of wanted to go over the different modalities because they're all so awesome and they're also different, and everybody's called to a different one. So they're just different ways that you use to connect to spirit when you feel like you can't connect to spirit on your own. Now, here's the thing too. There's a lot of things that help us connect to spirit, but the best is when you can connect on your own without having to use these things. You have everything you need inside of you already to connect to spirit, but sometimes we doubt ourselves, sometimes we get nervous, and so it's okay to use these things as sort of a crutch once in a while. But the fine line becomes when you become addicted. There's some modalities in here that I don't want, that sometimes I get a little nervous about talking about because I don't want addiction. Your spirit never thrives when there's addiction going on. So, because you always have to be, you have everything you need inside yourself. And when there's addiction, that's when lower frequencies can start to maneuver in there. So the first modality is, obviously meditation. Now, meditation is one that I don't feel like it's a modality. I feel like it's a conversation. It's praying to spirit and talking out loud to your ancestors is talking to them. Meditation is hearing them. But I do know that some people cannot connect very well without meditation. And you've probably heard me talk about a meditation where that mediums call sitting in the power. And this is when they sit and do readings, they connect to spirit. Now, sitting in the power is kind of using their own abilities or their own, meditation is doing it on your own. And that's why I don't think there is any addiction to this. Now, when there can be an addiction is when your meditation loses its intent. Now, I want to talk about intention with all these modalities. Some of these modalities are going to come across as bad because that's some belief systems, and some of them aren't. So, but honestly, I want you to keep an open mind and remember it's all about intention. So if you go into a meditation with the intention of growing and connecting to spirit and finding things out about yourself, then you're going to have an awesome experience with meditation. If you go into meditation wanting answers about whether or not your spouse is having an affair, or if you're going into meditation wanting information about somebody else's stuff, that's not going to be good. And if you get addicted to that, then that's an issue. So meditation is made for you to grow, you to connect to spirit. They're not going to give you, as much as I, out of anybody, would have loved information about my cheating ex when he was cheating on me, which I have no ill feelings towards, by the way, but I really wanted it so badly, and honestly, they're not. That's invasion of privacy. That's his business. That's their business. They're not going to give me information on that. If the spirit has every confidence in you that if you're not happy in the situation or you're not happy in the marriage, that you'll be strong enough to leave with or without the evidence. So just know the way that you meditate and your intention about the meditation is so key. They're not going to give you information about anybody else. Maybe your children, but not when it comes to invasion of privacy. I can't even do readings about if I have a client in front of me and other stuff comes in about the other person. I have to be super careful because there's a fine line about invasion of privacy, and spirit's not going to tell me what somebody else. Spirit doesn't gossip, so but spirit will tell you and guide you what maybe they won't tell you what to do. Spirit never tells you what to do, but they could guide you in a direction that may be for your best benefit. So meditation is an awesome way to connect. If you can't meditate, if you are not the type of person who just can't sit there and in quiet. I have ADHD, so that's really hard for me too. It took me a long time to train myself to meditate. Do guided meditations. Guided meditations make it so stuff come in. That just kind of trains you. And that trains you to connect. I've had so many awesome experiences on guided meditation. So, and then that one kind of get you into, and then maybe do active meditation like walk and think about things. But just know too, there's not ever going to be a time that you're absolutely not thinking about anything. That's not possible. And there's no way spirit can bring in ideas or information to you without you thinking about stuff. So you just have, the key is enough meditation get you to the point where you understand what's yours and what's spirit's, and you will get to that. And sometimes spirit can be pretty random. So just know that too. Now, the next one is mediumship, which is that's another way you can connect to spirit. So you can go to a medium. You can have them, connect to spirit for you in behalf of you. But just know this too. Every medium's intention should be to give you a great experience, but also to teach you to do this on your own. So you don't have to go to a medium, so you don't become addicted to the mediumship or psychicness, right? So mediumship is and there's different kinds of mediumships that help you connect to spirit. And one of them is psychometry, and that's when the medium actually touches something, or you can actually touch something and you meditate on it or you feel it and you get feelings from that. So psychometry, Tyler Henry uses that a lot. Psychometry. I was never trained with psychometry. I was kind of told mediumships. I was taught a different way, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think psychometry is great, and if that's how you want to connect to your grandmother, and you have her old coat in your closet, and you want to sit and hold it, then by all means sit and hold it. And if you have a lost loved one and you have their clothes and you want to dress up in their clothes, by all means, if you feel like you're going to be closer connected to them, sit in their clothes, because you probably will. It's kind of you probably will feel closer to them. It's got their energy on it. It's got their energy residue on it still, so you will feel closer to them. Also to automatic writing. We've talked about this many times as mediumship. One of my very first readings was when my grandfather passed, and he wrote a letter to my grandma, and he did it through automatic writing through me. So automatic writing is also a great way to connect to spirit. Also, automatic writing is so perfect for you to figure out what's yours and what's not yours. And automatic writing, I talk about it a lot. It's just when you write and you don't stop. And I had in my class this last time, someone said, I feel like I always have to be writing so fast. You don't. You can write super slow. You can take your time. In fact, I encourage writing slower. Just put some music on, some light spiritual music, and just start writing whatever comes to your mind. And most of the time, it will be from spirit, and you will be able to determine what's yours and what's not yours. Sometimes pick a theme, like, what do you want me to know today? And have a good intended theme, not something ill-intended. And then channeling, that's another type of mediumship. If you guys, in your spiritual journey, you probably have heard of some channelers. That's when spirit kind of takes over, not possesses a medium or not takes over, but kind of when a medium takes on their personality, or like Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks, they do, I forgot what was his name, Abraham Hicks. They channel a spirit that gives them information, and I can't remember the spirit's name. Dang it! But when I do these, I always like go blank sometimes. But that's channeling. Now, those are the different types of mediumship modalities that you can use. The main goal, again, like all these modalities, is to be able to do that on your own. Be able to tap in and stay in the power and do it on your own. So that's the main goal. And I just want you to know, too, that as many readings as I do, and all of the meditation that I do, trying to get information on my own stuff is so much harder. If you watch the Tyler Henry Medium show on Netflix, he even says it too. He's kind of going through this stuff, and he can't even get information on his own family. You're too close to it, so be careful with this. Don't give yourself some grace. Don't expect to get all the right answers about your own stuff, because doing this stuff about your own stuff is a little harder sometimes. So don't be so hard on yourself on this. Now, the next one are cards. Tarot cards, oracle cards. People use these to do readings on themselves. I will use them when I do readings on myself, or I do readings for my family, because I'm too emotionally involved with me, and I'm too emotionally involved with my family. So when I do this, I will use cards. Now, I used cards at the very beginning, because when I started doing readings, because I was too nervous to tap in. When I would get information, I would want validation, like training wheels, kind of. I would want, okay, I'm seeing this and I'm getting this, but I want it to be validated through the cards, or I want the cards to kind of, and I got to the point where I was getting so much validation through the cards that it got to the point where I just didn't have to do the cards anymore. I didn't have to use the cards, and now I can just sit and do readings without using cards. Now, sometimes I'll still use cards when I'm doing past lives, just because I'm so big on evidence. I'm an evidential reader. I like the evidence. And past lives and guides, there's no evidence there. And I just want my sitter to know I'm not making that shiz up, right? So if I have to do past life regression, sometimes I still will use cards to validate, just because it's for me, I'm just a scientific kind of person too, and I have to have validation. I don't know why, during the readings, because I just want to make sure. There's a lot of responsibility when you do readings, lots of responsibility, and I don't want to be telling somebody that this is what's going on in their life and totally blowing smoke up their butt, right? So that's why I kind of like to use the cards for that. Now, a lot of people that I try and train, because that's how I learned how to do mediumship, a lot of people don't like to use cards, and so it's hard for me to teach them, because that's how I learned, and I want to teach how I learned. So if you don't like cards, there's other things that you can learn. There's other things that you can use, different modalities that you can use to connect to spirit and get your information from spirit. There's a pendulum. This is not my favorite. Parent pendulums are not my favorite. And spirit boards, which are also known as Ouija boards. Okay, so here's what I want you to know, guys. These things are objects. Pendulums are things that have like something at the bottom. You know those games you used to play when you were little, and you'd use your necklace and you'd put it over your wrist and it would tell you how many kids you were going to have? That's a pendulum. That's what a pendulum is. You can find them at any holistic store. And it's just an object. An object with some energy. Same with a Ouija board or a spirit board. It is a board made by Hasbro, or I think it's Hasbro. It's just an object. Now, when you use these objects, depending on your intention, is where you're going to get in trouble here. So if you use the board and the pendulum, and you're addicted to it, it's not going to bring in a very high frequency, and this is when the lower frequencies can start to control the conversation or start to trick you. This is where you hear about spirits tricking or having fun, or because when you're addicted to these things, they start to have this power over you. So don't become addicted. If you're using a spirit board or a pendulum more than like once a week, that's kind of a lot for me too. Then stop using it and start tapping into your own self. You have all the power you need within you. I'm going to tell you this throughout this whole podcast. But I don't want you to get addicted. If you're sitting with a pendulum and you keep asking, is my husband cheating on me? Or you keep asking, are my kids going to be okay? Do I have this sickness? If you're constantly using a pendulum, you're addicted. And a lot of times, if you're asking your own questions, you're going to get this mixed up again, because it's too close to you. It's too So I use strong, strong caution with pendulums and spirit boards, but there are mediums out there that love them, absolutely love them. They entertain with them. They have, fun times with them. I've had bad experiences with Ouija boards, so I don't usually, I don't think I've ever since the bad experience, I've never really used a Ouija board, and I don't ever plan on to. But that doesn't mean because I don't like them that other people don't. If you are very comfortable with the Ouija board and you have good intentions, if you want to sit in a dark room and call spirits to you, then that's not a great intent. You have to be careful what you're going to get. But if you want to sit in a room and have and have and protect yourself and only let the best intended spirits come through, that's a different intention. And this Ouija board kind of thing goes with seances, same thing too. Lots of mediums will train during seances. Lots of people. I remember having sleepovers when I was little, and we'd play, because there is power in circles, and we'd play, we'd have little seances, or we'd have light as a feather, stiff as a board, and we'd have that one where Bloody Mary, you go into the bathroom and there's that apple, all that stuff. And at the time, we thought it was cool because it was scary, but you have to admit, we were doing it because it was scary. It was kind of scary. And so our intentions weren't the greatest. Now, as an adult, I don't suggest that you go into the bathroom and turn off the lights and call Bloody Mary, because what is that intention? It's not a good intention, right? So just do these things. Ouija boards, spirit circles. Do them with pendulums. Do them with high intentions. Do them with good intentions. Always, always protect. No matter what modality you use, always protect. Before I do readings, I always protect. I always go through my office, make sure I protect the whole office. Before I meditate, I make sure I'm surrounded with white light. Before using any of these objects, always, always protect. The next one is crystals. Now, crystals are awesome. Crystals have an energy. There is something about crystals and the energy that they give, and they can help you connect. Now, here's the thing. I wish I could be like, oh, get this crystal and you'll be able to connect to spirit tomorrow. That's not how it works. It still takes practice with you, but it can bring you to the vibration of the crystal, which may higher you. So different crystals can do different things. The crystals are throughout all of the Bible, and used through all different types of things. And also too, I think there's some information about Lemurian crystals from Lemuria, and crystals that we used, like if you've ever seen that Superman movie and he used those clear like tower crystals, there's some belief to that was kind of something going on in Atlantis, that all of our data was put in crystals like that. Hollywood is fascinating because they'll give you little secrets here and there about what the truth is. It's so crazy. So crystals, and they don't just automatically give you superpowers, but they will raise your vibration to them. Now, I used to not really put a lot into crystals because I always thought, you know what, I can do this myself, super independent. But you have to know, we live on a huge, gigantic rock that spins. So there's energy there. And I live in the gem state. There's energy there. There's energy in crystals. So I have changed my thoughts about in the beginning with crystals, and I do meditate with crystals. If you've ever had a reading with me, I do hold on to a gem or a rock that has a moose on it because it reminds me. I just feel closer to my dad when I do that. And I feel like I think it's an onyx or a jet, and it protects too. So always, and that's because it has that intention, right? It has that intention. That's the intention that I give it. So always make sure though that when you do get crystals, you do kind of give them in the intention that you want them to work. So hold them in your palm, do a little thing that tells you what you want that crystal to do for you, or what the intention of that crystal is. I have lots of crystals throughout my office, and they all have been held with intention of bringing in good and bringing in love and bringing in healing and having that intention. So, now I put down shamanism because I'm super interested in it. I don't know a lot about it. I just know that it's a form of connectedness. It's a form of, I think it's like a Native American kind of old practice, and I think it has to do with like medicine and helping spirits on the other side, or helping in the spirit realm. And I do have a couple friends who have had shamanism work. I'm super interested in it, and it's probably something that I will probably go down that road one day when I have more time. But it's something you might want to look into. I think it's super interesting. I have read books on shamanism, and it's so fascinating to me. But also, too, Egypt is so fascinating to me. Egypt, I just love to learn anything about Egypt. So are these, things that happened in a past life? I don't know. I just know that my spirit loves to know all the information about all of that stuff. So the next one, Akashic Records. I've talked about this a little bit. This is what the Bible calls the Book of Life, and it's also known as a big library. I like to think of it as an infinite intelligence. And honestly, to be honest, I don't know really why I put it down as a modality, because all of these modalities are to try and get you connected to spirit and the Akashic Records, the infinite intelligence, knowing, because when you do readings on people, you're going to tap into their Akashic Records, or their ancestors are going to. And so, if you want answers about your life or your past lives, you're tapping into the Akashic Records. I used to think that, I used to picture it as a big library, and so I would think I didn't have access to it. But now I just know that it's an infinite intelligence, and I just think of it as like a frequency or a radio station. And now it's much easier for me to feel like I connect to it, connect to it. So just remember too, don't make these harder than it is. I used to think the Akashic Records were hard, that I could never get in, or I didn't understand it. And honestly, the way I thought about it, I just tweaked that. And now it's like super easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now, plant medicine. This one's a tough one. If you guys have heard about ayahuasca, anything plant medicine that helps you with your spiritual growth. I am not against this. I'm not, again, it's all about addiction. It's whether you not, the point is, or the main focus is, it's all great. But if you get addicted to it, or you do it too much, it can cause some mental issues, some mental health issues, because it's causing you to spiritually grow faster than you're supposed to, or it's causing you to you have spiritual growth where your body can't catch up. So every once in a while, all of this stuff used in moderation is fascinating and great for you. But if you get past the addiction line, then that's when there's an issue. So again, with plant medicine, ayahuasca, all the different plant forms, that's really great. I do know somebody told me a story about someone who was administering the plant medicine, said that mediumship was a lower frequency, and it kind of made me laugh, because I'm like, and I'm not judging, but so what is I just like, so how is giving people plant medicine not, you just don't judge people. You don't judge people. There's no one superior. There's no one inferior. You're just you. And I feel like you're at the frequency you're at, not by modality you use, right? So anyways, plant medicine, just be careful with it. And if you do decide to do it, make sure that there is a trained shaman with you, or somebody who has a medical degree, or somebody that it is controlled, that it doesn't get out of hand, that there's been terrible experiences where some of my friends have had overexposure and mental issues ensued. So just be careful, to use your own discretion, and be careful here with moderation and with intent. And a lot of this too is plant medicine. It just gives you psychedelics, things like that. They can give you an awesome experience. They really can, but they can also give you scary, just like any other modality, they can give you scary incidences. So again, use this in moderation, and use your own discretion, and ask spirit before you do anything with using this. And remember, the main goal again is to be able to connect without any of the use of these things, just to be able to sit in the power on your own. There's also breath work. This is a new thing coming, and it's, that's why a lot of times when you're meditating, they'll say, pay attention to your breathing. It's pretty awesome. Breath work and there's breath work facilitators, all of that stuff. And honestly, breath work actually is kind of you using yourself to connect. So I've never had I've never done breath work, and not because I don't need it, just because I kind of feel like right now where I'm at and my own meditations, I've had some awesome experiences, so I don't feel like I need it. But when I feel called to it, or when Spirit calls me to it, I'll totally do it. I'm not against it. Now, some of the other the modalities that I'm going to go more towards healing, but you can tap into Spirit using these, because I have to tell you, when I sit in an EMDR session, I connect so fast. The way that they do the bilateral movements puts me right into the power, right? It sets me right in the power like I do when I have a reading. And so I think that that's really cool. So I think that people bringing spirit and science together is awesome. So one of the ones that I forgot to bring up palm reading. Palm reading is awesome. Awesome. My daughter just got her palm reads yesterday, and I am working on having my awesome friend palm reader come on and be a guest and talk more about that. That is a way to connect. That is a way to kind of see, check in, validate, see where you're at in life, validate that you're going in the right direction. It's kind of a psychic thing, but some palm readers connect, and I know mine does when she does palm reading. So she connects when she's doing it. She sits in the power. So I thought that was kind of cool. But again, do not. I always feel like, because you can get addicted to mediumship. You can get addicted to psychics. You can get addicted to palm readings. You can get addicted to this stuff because it's so fascinating, and you do feel a connection to source. But you have to be able to work it out so you feel that. So you feel that on your own. Also, too, another one. These are all healing. Reiki. I've had awesome Reiki sessions where the Reiki person connects to the other side. They can feel my ancestors come in. Tibetan bowl massages. I've had awesome experiences with that. And I've done Tibetan bowl massages on people where their ancestors come in. So this is not only healing in the physical body form, but the person who is actually performing the work on you can have connection, or you can have connection. I've had one person who had a Tibetan bowl massage, and they had an out-of-body experience, and they just felt like they couldn't talk for like 1 to 2 days because the experience was so sacred. And so these modalities can put you into that realm, into that spiritual realm. And it can also put the provider who's doing it to you, you can put them in a connection to spirit. And sometimes if they're not scared, they'll say, okay, I'm feeling this coming through. I'm feeling this coming through. Sometimes they're a little bit scared and they think that maybe they're wrong, and so they won't. But a lot of times, I guarantee you, foot zoning, same thing. Reiki, foot zoning, Tibetan bowl massages, sound baths, all of that stuff put you into this spiritual realm. And a lot of times, and they help you connect. And a lot of times the providers will also connect too. Also too, that goes with this is tapping. I think it's EMF or EMT. You tap. The way I love my favorite tapping is double. You can tap on your head, tap down into I always tap my chest, but you can do the butterfly tap where you put your hands across your chest. You put your arms across your chest and your hands are on your shoulders, and you just take turns and butterfly tap your shoulders. So you can also Google tapping. Super, super awesome. I think it sets you into a minute. I have a hard time with tapping during meditation because I like to be relaxed, and I like to be just kind of laying there or sitting there, but tapping, it makes you work, and so you concentrate on the tapping. But that's why the EMDR works so well, is because you concentrate on the tapping, and you're kind of going through some traumatic events in your life, but you're also concentrating on the tapping, so it kind of disassociates a little bit, so you don't feel all the emotions. So tapping has its way of kind of helping you work through some of the emotions. So if you're dealing with that, tapping's great. Tapping's a great way of healing. Yoga. Awesome. Now, I have ADHD, so I struggle with yoga unless it's fast. I can't just sit there. Like I said with my meditation, I can't just sit in a pose. It's really, really hard for me. I have to. Payo's always worked for me, and I go to a yoga studio in Rigby, Idaho, that she keeps it going pretty fast, so I don't get too bored. And I know that's not the. I know you're supposed to sit in the pose so you can meditate, but if I want to sit and meditate, I have to do that on my own. I have to do that on my own. So, because yoga, I'll be like, oh, what's next? Or how do I do this? I'm too worried about it. Maybe if I was more in the flow of it, I would get it. But I've heard so many people called to yoga. They feel so good about it. And I will have it at my retreats and sound baths at my retreats, just because those are so good at connecting you to spirit. Any type of healing that works with your inner child healing, because we as kids, we're so like sponges. We're so like sponges, and our parents are just doing the best that they know how. Because remember, they're kids raising kids, honestly. And so there's a lot of things that happened to us in our childhood maybe by mistakes of our parents, but we can't blame our parents. They just did the best they could. We got to own this shit. We got to own it, and we got to deal with it. And so inner child trauma is actually, a really good way to deal with some of the stuff that you're dealing with now. Why are you afraid now? Why are you afraid to connect now? Why are you afraid to move forward now? A lot of it stems back from some trauma healing. And you can find this inner child stuff during Reiki. You can find it in tapping. You can find it in EMDR. You can find it in the sound bowls. You can find it with just even a meditation. I have a meditation. I think I don't have it anymore, but I'll make it again. I have to make it again. But you can go back and visit your 5-year-old self and feel safe, and have her feel safe, and tell her it's going to be okay, or tell him it's going to be okay. And so I really like that inner child healing. So I know there are so many other modalities out there that I didn't touch on. Like we talked about plants and medicine, but I talked about using it as a drug, kind of like a psychedelic kind of. But you can use it. This is where the witches come. But and shamanism, you can put stuff together and as medicine and take it to heal your body, not to connect, but to heal your body. So, and if you're called to that, that's great. If you're called to oils, I forgot to mention oils. Oils are, can be a great healing, kind of modality too. I don't know if it helps you connect. You can use them when you meditate, put them under your nose, things like that. So there's all different kinds of modalities. There's modalities to connect to spirit. There's modalities to heal. There's so many things, and there's so many options. And I know sometimes it's hard to feel what you're called to, but try them and try the different ones, and the ones that you love, you'll be called to. The ones that you try and you're like, okay, I love this, then you will start to figure it out, and you'll start to research it, and you'll start to love it, and you'll start to do it more, and you'll find it. But the way you can figure it out is to eliminate the things you don't want. So if you try a spirit board or a Ouija board and you don't love it, then that's not for you. I know that that's not for me. Pendulums also aren't my favorite. I'll use them maybe once a year. When I kind of am trying to figure out what to do next in my career, and I think I'm supposed to go one way, I'll use a pendulum to validate, okay, Spirit, is this what you're trying to tell me? So, but I very rarely use them. Now, I don't use cards as much anymore. I use meditation, and I haven't tried some of the plant therapies or the breath work, but I'm not against it, and I probably will eventually try it eventually. So, yeah, just try it. This is kind of a, you try it. If you don't like it, great, move on. If you do love it, then stick with it, because that's probably how you connect the best. So I hope you guys love that. I hope that helps you. I hope that helps you connect to spirit better. And if you have any questions about that, please DM me. Please let me know. And I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Please, if you liked this episode of Spunky Spirit, please share it with your friends or subscribe. Share it to the world. Let them know. And good luck and have fun.